Hello and good afternoon, and welcome to this week's edition of From Dina's Desk. I am Dina Bilru, your career and life coach, and I am here again to bring you another topic that can help you move forward and transition in your life and your career. I am here on LinkedIn Live every Tuesday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here, bringing you information and bringing you topics that can help you as you transition. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for tuning in. Now, this week's topic is going to be the 7 biggest mistakes job seekers make. The 7 biggest mistakes job seekers make. And if you're a job seeker right now, and if this is you, and you are searching for a job, you've been applying for the last couple of months, and maybe you're not getting the results that you think you should be getting. You're submitting your resume, you're submitting your cover letter, you're applying for several jobs each week, you're interviewing, you're following up, you're networking, you just are not getting the results that you would like. There may be some mistakes that you're making that you're just not aware of, right? It happens. Sometimes you're doing things and you think you're doing all the right things, but there may just be 1 or 2 things that you need to tweak that could help you get the results that you are looking for. So this is what we want to talk about today. We are talking about some mistakes that job seekers make, and once we correct those mistakes, then you'll have a greater level of success as you go throughout the job search process. So the very first thing that I want you to think about, a mistake that you may not be making, is not catering your resume and your cover letter for each job. Not catering your resume and your cover letter for each job. Just in case no one has ever told you, looking for a job is a job. Looking for a job is a job. This is something you're going to have to devote hours to, days, blood, sweat, tears. You're going to have to put this into looking for your job. So just like you approach your current job and you're professional, you put your time and energy into it, you dot all your I's and you cross all your T's, when you come to your job search, you don't want to slight this. You want to approach this with the same level of enthusiasm and professionalism and put the amount of time into it so that you will get the results back that you want. So not catering your resume and your cover letter is a huge, huge mistake, and I see people time and time again make this mistake. You want to make sure that for each job, you are catering your resume and catering your cover letter if they are requiring that. And when they have the job description, that is your cheat sheet. They are letting you know in the job description, this is who our ideal client is. This is what we're looking for. We want you to have this many years of experience. We want you to have experience in these areas. We want you to be familiar with this. We want you to have experience managing these types of projects or these types of teams. So that's your cheat sheet. They're letting you know what they're looking for, what they're expecting, and what the ideal client looks like. So you want to make sure you use that, and you want to make sure that you have some of those buzzwords and some of those keywords from the job description on your resume, and you want to make sure that you also sprinkle some of those words, those phrases, and that verbiage on your cover letter as well. And so you can't take the same one resume or one cover letter and use it to apply to 20 or 25 jobs. That's actually not the best use of your time, and you're actually really wasting your time doing that. You want to be very strategic. You want to make sure you're applying for jobs that align with your personal values, your career goals, and align with the type of experience that you want to have and what you want to be doing. So number one, you may not be catering your resume and your cover letter as much as you should be. So that's something I want you to think about and something that I want you to take a look at as you move forward. Number two, not networking and not making connections. Now, you should always be networking. You know, as they say, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So you don't want to always wait until you're looking for a job and then you're in crunch time and you're trying to just make all these random connections. You want to make sure at all times that you are networking. You want to always make sure that you are following up with people in your network, occasionally reaching out to them just to kind of remind them and refresh their memory of who you are and your skills and qualifications, what you bring to the table, and what your career goals are. So you want to make sure that you're periodically doing that, and you want to make sure that you're not missing out on any hidden opportunities, because a lot of the jobs are not necessarily advertised, or people on the inside of the company know about the position before the public knows about the position. So if you're in constant conversation with people, particularly people who recruiters, people who are in management, people who are in human resources that may know about some of these opportunities before they come down the pipeline. You may find out about it before the public does, as I mentioned before. So these are good connections to have. And this is the number one reason why you want to make sure you're networking, keeping in contact with your connections, so you can find about some of those opportunities before other people do, which gives you a leg up on the competition, so to speak. So make sure that you're doing that. And of course, LinkedIn is one of the number one places to do that. Make sure that you're reaching out to people and being bold in your job search, because sometimes you're going to have to reach out to complete strangers. And as long as you're not stalking them and you're professional, you're not overbearing, you have proper etiquette, then it should be fine to reach out to them and express interest in certain opportunities. Okay. So number 3, another mistake that you may be making is you're sticking with traditional methods. You are sticking with traditional methods. You are applying for a job and then you're sitting and waiting for the phone to ring, just like everybody else that's applying for the same jobs that you're applying for, right? So I just talked about being bold in your job search process. So you're going to have to be a little bit more bold. You're going to have to think outside the box, and you're going to have to be creative, because just like you're waiting for the phone to ring, you're waiting for that email, so are thousands and thousands of other people that are going to be competing for some of those same jobs. So one of the ways that you can think about a non-traditional method is to reach out to someone, like I just mentioned in step 2, and maybe ask for an informational interview from them. Maybe send them your resume, let them know that you're interested in transitioning your career, let them know you're interested in maybe an opportunity in their company whenever it opens, and you like just 15, 20 minutes of their time, and you like to just kind of ask them some questions, right? Because maybe you saw their profile, you're very impressed with their background and some of their experience, and you'd like to just kind of take a deeper dive on maybe how you can transition and get into that particular space. So maybe set up a couple of informational interviews, have about 10 questions or so prepared to ask that person, and have them give you some feedback on your resume. And I can guarantee you, because this method has been proven for me, that's the way to kind of get your foot in the door. Because if someone has looked at your resume, they see you taking the initiative, that's a non-traditional way to be able to find out about jobs and search for those opportunities. Also, you may want to start attending some online networking events and some online job fairs, particularly now that we're in the space that we're in now. Those are happening all the time. So when you are attending these online events, a lot of times you will get a list of the companies that are going to be there in advance, and you want to do your research on those companies. You may not be able to talk to all the companies that are going to be there, but you can do your research and say, what are my top 5 or 6 companies that I know I want to interact with, I want to speak with, do some research, find out the openings that they have, try to research maybe who the recruiter is, and make sure that you are shining in that online event. Because other people may come to the networking event not prepared. They just saw it as a networking event, they registered and they showed up. But if you are more prepared, you've done your research and you came to the table already with some questions to ask, you've done your research on the company, that's going to make you stand out even more. So when you're attending these online networking events and these job fairs, be prepared. Try to figure out a way to make yourself stand out. Be prepared with your 60-second commercial, prepared and ready to sell yourself rather, and that's just going to make you stand out a little bit more. Okay, and then of course you're going to use social media. You're probably on social media already, and that's where a lot of recruiters are. So you want to use social media to your advantage. If the company has a LinkedIn page where they're posting jobs, or if they have a group where you can follow, if they're on Facebook, if they're on Twitter or Instagram, follow their page, because there is a real person that's running that page, and then maybe you can interact with them. Maybe you can reply to something that they said, you can ask a question, or maybe even in the DM, their direct messages, as long as you're professional again and not overbearing, you can maybe express an interest in a particular opening, and you can maybe ask a question that way. So use social media to your advantage. And then another non-traditional way that you can search for a job is when you're interacting with employers and you are sending them your resume, you're applying for a job, send them a video resume. Send them a video resume, which is just a 1 to 2 minute commercial that you can record yourself talking about your experience. Talk about what you bring to the table. Talk about how you're interested in working with the company. Talk about what you're looking to do at this particular point in your career. Talk about why you're drawn to this company and how you think you can help. how you would love to talk with someone about how you can help them to reach their goals. You can help them reach their mission and help them reach their vision. Okay. So think about a 1 to 2 minute commercial where you can record yourself, record a video, and then send it to the employers. And that way, again, that'll make you stand out from the other people that aren't doing the same thing. Okay. So number 5 is poor email and poor written communication. Poor email and poor written communication. And you may think that's not that big of a deal, but it is. Because until you have the job, you are in interview mode. They're constantly interviewing you, whether, outright or just kind of behind the scenes, so to speak. They're always gauging whether or not you're a good fit for their company. And so as you are emailing the employer, as you are emailing the recruiter, as you are emailing human resources from the very first email where they may be reaching out for a phone interview, all the way up to the time when they finally make the job offer and the negotiation has been set and you have your offer letter, you are being interviewed. And part of that is how you come across in your written communication. And so you want to make sure that whenever you're sending emails, it speaks highly of you and it is the same branding, if you will, that they saw when they maybe met you, the same type of branding, the same thing when they read your resume, when you come in for an interview, all of it should be the same. Your brand should be the same. You should be professional across all platforms. And so you want to make sure that whenever you are emailing someone, first of all, you have a professional email address. You want to make sure that you have a professional email address because that says a lot about you because they know you chose that email address. So it's always safe to say your first and last name at gmail.com. First and last name at gmail.com. Or maybe first and last name and maybe your degree behind your name at gmail.com. Something like that that's very simple, very professional, and in no way can be misconstrued as something that's not professional. Okay? So your email address definitely needs to be professional. And then you have to think about the fact that people are busy. They receive a lot of emails, maybe hundreds of emails a day, depending on their position. And so you have to figure out a way to make your email stand out. So when they come in the morning or they come back from their lunch break or whenever they're checking their email, what's going to make them open up your email over the other hundreds of emails that they get? So you want to take a little bit of time and think about your subject. And so if you are following up to a networking event, you may want to say networking event - next steps. And so that lets them know, hey, I spoke with this person before and they're following up to a networking event. Okay, so that may be something they may open a little bit quicker than something that has a generic title. Or you may say project manager job opening - resume attached. So that lets them know, hey, I maybe submitted a job opening on a particular website or something, and this person is emailing me and I'm looking for people for this position, so they may open it. Or you may say job fair follow-up - revised resume. Job fair follow-up - revised resume. And that will let them know that this person, revised their resume because maybe you spoke with them, you got them to look at your resume, they kind of gave you some pointers, some things they thought you may want to add on there, some revisions, and you revised it and you sent that to them. So those are some subject titles that may get their attention and may get them to open up your email, and kind of your email will go to the top of the pile, so to speak, over those that don't really have a catchy subject. So take a little bit of time and think about what is the subject that you want to have. Okay? And then, of course, get straight to the point. Again, people are busy, so you want to get straight to the point. What is it that you want from this person? What is the reason why you're emailing? What information do you want to tell them? Or what information do you want to get from them? What questions do you have? Short, sweet, to the point, let them know exactly what you're wanting and make sure that you are mindful of their time, just short, sweet, and to the point, right? And then always follow up with your contact information. Always follow up with your name and your phone number. So readily they can just, if they need to, they can just open the email and your phone number is right there. They don't have to go back and, try to find something and try to figure out what your phone number is to contact you. If they want to pick up the phone and call, they know they can just go right to the last email and your phone number is going to be there. So always put the information in there. And then as you're going throughout the job search process, again, you're being interviewed, right? So they're gauging your timeliness. How soon does it take you to respond to an email? When you are going through the job search process, you should be checking your email several times a day. So you don't want to have them waiting 24 or 48 hours to get a response from you. You want to make sure that you're checking. You want to make sure you're responding in a timely manner, particularly if they're asking something from you. If they're asking you to submit something, they're asking for more information, they're asking you to confirm an interview time or what have you, you want to make sure you're checking your email frequently so that you can respond in a timely manner. All of those things are things to think about when it comes to your email etiquette and when it comes to your written communication. And then number 6, not adequately answering the interview questions. Not adequately answering the interview questions is another big mistake that job seekers make. So if you are having your interview and you think you're doing a great job and you think you just knocked it out of the park and I just did a great job, but then you're not getting a call back to move forward in the process, then your interview questions may be the issue, right? So you want to think about it from the standpoint of, with the interview, again, they're gauging whether or not you are knowledgeable, they're gauging your professionalism, and ultimately they're gauging your likability. Interviews are not about you being a perfect candidate because there is no perfect candidate. Interviews are about your likability. The person who is interviewing you, can they see you on their team? Can they see you being someone who can help them solve their problems, their business needs? Can you help them with that? Because all businesses, all companies are in business to solve problems and ultimately to make money, but they definitely want you to be there to help them solve their problems, right? And they're asking you certain questions to be able to gauge your ability to be able to use your knowledge and use your expertise to help them with their business needs. It's just that simple. And so within an interview, there are several different interview questions, several different types of interview questions. You may have your traditional questions, your behavioral questions, you have your stress questions, and then you have your illegal questions. Traditional, behavioral, stress, and then illegal. And in an interview, you could be asked a variety of all 4 of those. So a traditional question would be, tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Why should we hire you? All of those are traditional questions, right? Tell me about your experience in X, Y, and Z, right? Those are just the basic things you're going to start off with, and those are your traditional questions that really just focus on pretty much your experience and what you're bringing to the table. And then you may also be asked behavioral questions. And behavioral questions are just that. They're there to gauge your behavior. What have you done in the past? That's a good indication of what you may do in the future if we were to hire you. So behavioral questions are going to be more about a situation. So they may say, tell me about a time when you were not able to meet a deadline. What happened and what was the result? That's a behavioral question. Another example of a behavioral question may be, tell me about a time when you had an upset customer that you were just not able to satisfy. Okay? Maybe another one may be, give me an example of a time when you performed a job duty that was outside of your role. What exactly did you do and how did it turn out? So those are all behavioral, where they're wanting you to give them a particular situation, tell them what happened, and tell them what the result is, right? Or what the result was. And you want to think about the SOAR method, S-O-A-R, the SOAR method: situation, opportunity, action, and result. What was the situation? What was your opportunity? What was your specific actions that you took? And then what was the result? So you may say something like, the situation was, I came into the department and it was my task to build the department and increase our customer service scores. It was a great opportunity for me to build the team. It was a great opportunity for me to improve the scores. And the action that I took was I started training the employees. I started taking some of the more newer clients or newer employees and partnering them with the more seasoned employees. And we had a buddy system where we started to work with that. And what I did was I started, working with them myself. We started having weekly meetings about that, and I made it fun. I made it a friendly competition where each week we would have a prize for the person who got the best scores. And the result was we increased our customer service scores by 30% within 6 months, right? So that was the situation. Customer service scores were low. It was an opportunity for you to build the team, to train, to motivate. The action you took when you implemented the buddy system and you rewarded them, made it a friendly competition, and then your result was you increased customer service by 30% within 6 months. Okay? So the SOAR method, when you have behavioral questions, make sure you tell a complete story. Okay? And then another type of question may be a stress question. And it's just what it says. It's a situation or question to cause you stress. And they may just do that just to see how well you can keep your composure. Definitely if you're going to be in a very high stressful situation, if you're going to be the face of the department, the face of the organization, and you're going to be interacting with outside people, external stakeholders and customers and things like that, they want to see how well you can keep your composure. If you're in a stressful situation, this is a high impact opportunity. It's a lot of moving pieces. We want to see how well you'll do. And it may be something where you have to make sure that you can keep confidentiality, make sure that you are loyal, and all those type of things, right? So a question they may ask is, if you knew a team member was stealing money from the company, how would you handle that? What would you do, and how would you handle it? Or they may say, if you knew that a vendor was overcharging us, maybe price gouging and charging us more prices than they may be charging other people, how would you handle that situation? So those may be situations that may be a little bit stressful, but again, they're trying to see how would you handle it. Can you be professional? Can you be diplomatic? What would be the steps that you would take to rectify those situations? And then lastly, there may be an illegal question. Excuse me, it may be an illegal question. And sometimes companies ask illegal questions simply because they don't know any better. They don't know the questions are illegal because maybe they don't have a human resources department to tell them. And so sometimes they may ask those questions. And so questions asking how many children do you have, or do you have children? Questions asking if you have a car, asking you about hospitalization records, any questions regarding your sexual orientation, your race, your ethnicity, your religious background or religious affiliation, things like that. Any questions that are alluding to discriminating against you based on those things are all illegal, right? So someone may say, with this position, you may have to travel overnight. Will your husband have an issue with that? Okay, that may be something that's kind of illegal because they're trying to gauge whether or not you're married or not. And really all you have to do is say, I don't foresee any obstacles that will stop me from fulfilling the duties of this job. And just leave it at that. Just basically, whatever it is, respond to the intent of the question and not the question itself. I don't foresee any obstacles that will stop me from fulfilling the duties of the job. Okay? So those are some different examples. With the interview questions, the traditional, the ones that you're going to hear over and over, behavioral ones where they're trying to gauge previous behavior, which may dictate your future behavior, stress questions where you're going to need to think on your feet, and the objective is to just maintain your composure. Be as professional with those and give a very professional, confident answer like you did before, or any kind of illegal questions. Respond to the intent, which is basically, I don't foresee any obstacles that's going to prevent me from performing the duties of the job. Okay? And then lastly, number 7, not following up. Not following up is a huge mistake that job seekers make because, as I mentioned before, you're still continuing to interview until you have the offer letter and until you walk in day one for the job, right? You're still interviewing. They're still gauging you. And a lot of times, not following up can be the difference between you and another candidate. If one candidate follows up and you don't, and both of you are kind of neck and neck and they're trying to figure out who they're going to hire, the fact that this person, the other person, took the time to follow up, they took the time to write a thank you letter, they maybe took the time to provide some additional information and you didn't, could be the determining factor. So it's always good to follow up because that's just good business etiquette. It's always good for you to follow up. And you want to make sure that you follow up within 24 hours. You want to make sure that you follow up within 24 hours before you forget to do so, right? And before they forget who you are. You want to follow up while it's fresh in their mind, and you want to follow up where you have enough of a chance or enough of an opportunity to influence the decision. You don't want to wait a week to follow up and then they're going to make a decision within 2 days. Well, then you missed your opportunity. So within 24 hours, you want to make sure that you follow up. And there are a number of different ways that you can follow up and what you can say when you follow up. You can just send an email to them and just say, thank you so much for the opportunity to interview with your company for this particular position. I was very pleased to learn X, Y, and Z. And just mention something specifically that they told you about in the interview. It may be an upcoming project. It may be, them giving you a tour of the facility so you were able really to see behind the scenes what's happening, or whatever it is, something specific that you talked about, right? And so you can just thank them for that opportunity. And then you can also say, because our interview was so short, I wanted to include my LinkedIn profile so you can get more of a look into my experience and my background, right? And then put your LinkedIn hyperlink in there so they can click on it and go to your LinkedIn page. Okay, thank you so much. Sincerely, first and last name, and then put your phone number. Or you may say, thank you so much for the opportunity to interview. It was a pleasure meeting you and the rest of the team. I really would be excited about the opportunity and I'm looking forward to next steps. I also took the liberty to include some letters of recommendation from my peers that I'm sure will confirm my professionalism and my commitment to excellence. They are attached. And then you just may attach 2 or 3 letters and, thank you so much, first and last name and your phone number, right? So you're giving them additional information. You're giving them something else because, again, your follow-up letter may be the determining factor. And so you want to give them just a little bit more information. If you're unsure about me in any way, here's my LinkedIn profile where you can see I have experience. You can see I'm well connected with people in my industry. You can see some of the other things that maybe I didn't put on my resume, right? I have more experience than maybe what I talked about, right? Or the letters of recommendation from other people. Here's letters of recommendation from my peers that show this is how I am. Or a letter of recommendation from some direct reports that show my management style, that type of thing. And then one other thing that you can do is in the interview, they may ask you a question about something. They may ask you if you're knowledgeable in a particular area and say you honestly just say that you didn't know. Or they may tell you about a particular problem that they're currently facing. And you may say, maybe you couldn't think of an answer. Maybe they asked you about something and they're wanting to know how would you solve the problem. And you may be a little bit nervous, kind of, caught off guard, so you weren't able to give them an answer. This is the perfect place in the follow-up, in the thank you letter. That's where you can say, during the interview, there was a question that was asked about, and put the question, and then just say, after thinking about it a little bit more, the way I would solve that would be, and then give them your answer. Okay, because again, in the interview, you might have been a little bit nervous. You need a little bit of time to think about it. And then once you thought about it, come up with an answer. If you don't know it, Google it. Google it and figure out how you would solve that problem. And just say, after a little bit more research, then I learned that this is a way that other companies, other people in the industry are working through this issue. And you'll be a genius if you do that. Okay, so if there ever is a time where you're asked the question in the interview and you didn't quite know, you don't quite know the answer, you can always just follow up and say, thank you so much for sharing that information and thank you for bringing that to my attention. I did a little bit more research on that particular topic, and here are a couple of articles that I found that you may find interesting, right? So if there's a topic that you didn't know about, you go and do some research and then send them a couple of articles where they may be able to get some information. And what that does is that lets them know that you're taking it seriously. You know how to go and do research. You know how to find out about things that you don't know. And you also have a quick turnaround time because they brought it up in the interview and within 24 hours, you came up with a fix. You went and researched it and you found out more information, which lets them know if they were to hire you, you'd be a person that would be a quick learner and you definitely would take the initiative. So these are some ideas of things that you can do when you are following up. And then if you do all of these things and say you still don't necessarily get the job that time around, keep following up. As I mentioned before, networking is very important. So follow up with them in 6 months. If for whatever reason you don't get that particular job, no worries. right? Because you're going to continue looking, and you may tell them, thank you so much for following up with me and letting me know that I wasn't a good fit this time around. I thank you so much for letting me know that. I hope that it will be okay for me to keep in contact with you. And I'd like to follow back up with you in 6 months in case there are some other opportunities that may come available in the future. And they should normally not have a problem with that. And you just follow back up maybe in 6 months. And just kind of reintroduce yourself and let them know that you are still in the market and you're still looking. Okay. So those have been some of the 7 biggest mistakes that job seekers are making. And if you identify with any one of these mistakes, then just make a change. Just simply make a change. It's not the end of the world. You can definitely make a change as you move forward in your job search